when you got them sent to be digitized and everything, did you even, like, look at them after you got them back? Okay. So you know, like...
I know that 70% of this is Hawaii painting.
No.
I feel like it...
No, it's not 70%. There is a large chunk of it.
70% of it is Hawaii painting. And when my first reaction to that, when I watched all this after them being dormant on millimeter film for all these years, I'm like, you had one kid and you took a lot of shots of the scenery.
It is pretty...
Got it.
Like...
Got it. And, you know, I truth be full transparency, I am a self-centered, I have an ego.
Okay, what are you talking about?
No, I'm just saying, like, at first when I saw it, I went, damn, dude, all that film and you're taking shots of everything other than your kid. But then when I said that in my head,
but hold on. Why are you wrong for
that? But then when I said that in my head, I went, well, that's selfish of you. Programming. Right? I'm like, ooh, that's selfish of you. That guy maybe went to Hawaii twice, so...
Yeah, who am I to judge his right to record rocks and water?
Yeah.
Instead of me.
Right.
His one son.
Right. So yeah, I'm like, really? The playback on that was... Wow. All this right there, that's what you're going to want to go back to years later? You're going to want to watch that? Like, those could just be a picture.
Yeah.
I remember that day, and before watching this, I remember wanting to hang out with my dad and Uncle Steven in the pool, because the only time we got to go swimming in Northern California is at Steven's house. And wherever he lived, he always had a pool. So that was like a big thrill. Because either you go down to the beach and the San Francisco water's freezing. So anytime you got to a pool, it was like, wow, it's a big deal. And I remember that Dad always used to like to horseplay in the pool and be funny, or so he thought. But like part of that, when you see Steven and him splashing each other, like Steven wears glasses, and if you see the older brother with the younger brother splash fighting in the pool, Steven's just splashing and your grandfather's going directly for the face because he knows that that's a weak point. And watching him just like drop me right in the water and all that stuff, like that was his way of, in his mind, he thought he was, obviously this is just my opinion, but I take that now as a 51-year-old, that was his way of joking around and dropping me in the water like that and watching me gargle and choke was his way of trying to, I guess, make me tougher or more to fight. But he never really gave you that verbally. He never explained it. He just left you feeling some type of way. And then just kind of would move on and left you to deal with it. Because as long as Billy was having fun, that was all good. Like even this right here, because I know my father, right? Because I was grabbing towards Uncle Steven and he wanted to pick me up and have like a dad and son shot in the camera, and I wasn't having it because how he was acting. So he's like, all right, well then I'm just gonna drop your ass in the water, right? Take that. Engage when I wanted to. You want to go to your uncle, therefore I'll drop you, and then when you're crying, I'll just, the both of you.
Right, and then you're comforted not by them, but by an object that they hand to you.
Right, freezing my ass off. But see, like, he'd, try to give me comfort by, like, rubbing my head and then all that, and then he's like, okay. Hi, oh, okay. No, you don't want to. And look at how my life jacket's just not even on properly. They're like, no, just let's try it. You'll be all right. We don't have that thing on, but you're bound to come up. Right? But then he's good to check his own ears.
Right, in his nose.
Right?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I think I have some water in there.
Right. Let me make sure I'm good. That was your grandfather. And when it's just you growing up and you don't know any better, you don't have any tools, you don't have any reference, you don't have any awareness other than what your reality is. And then you start to see it outside of, not to say life was a cyclone, but when you're in the middle of a cyclone, all you see is that. And then when you get out of it, you're like, oh, huh, it's bigger. So his dynamic of how he was, that's just, I didn't realize, until I continued to get older. I'm like, wow, this is to put it nicely, there's some opportunity here for things to be different. Right. So,
How old were they when they had you?
Well, let's go back farther. So, yeah, I think he was like 23, 24.
He was?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And the other weird thing in that timeline, if you figure of him being roughly 29 during that pool scene, right? Having a kid that's like 5 or 6-ish at that point. So to go, yeah, I was 28 or 29 when you were born. But, I mean, I don't know. You probably have a different perspective. I can't think of me behaving that way with you in a pool if you were 5 or 6 in that late in age of me being 29, or even 5 or 6 years after the fact being in my early 30s to mid 30s and acting that way with you in the pool. Anyway, I don't know if that comes from from my experience, and therefore, I don't want to pass that on.
I think by showing this relationship that you had with your dad in such a contrast to the relationship that we obviously have cultivated now.
Yeah.
That it's not that it wasn't always there, but it wasn't always available for me to access. And it's not a binary that is like your relationship was bad and our relationship is good, and like it's not black and white like that.
Right.
Because even when it wasn't available for me to access the positive aspects of our relationship, it didn't really matter because the foundation was already this like special thing that you did.
That's cool that you think of things that way. That means I did some good in there.